After enduring an endlessly draining shift at the clinic, filled with urgent cases, emotional strain, and the kind of fatigue that settles deep into your bones, I returned home, weary and completely alone, longing for nothing more than a moment of stillness, a breath of peace in the quiet comfort of my own space. But as I stepped inside, the silence that greeted me wasn't the soothing kind I'd hoped for. It was heavy, unnatural, and strangely suffocating, as if the walls themselves had been waiting for my return. You know that moment when your entire world just shatters? When the ground beneath you isn't just shaking, it's gone? That was me, the second I stepped off the plane, back on American soil after 3 tours in hell, and saw the text from my wife. "Don't bother coming. The locks are changed. The kids don't want you. It's over." But what she didn't know was, "It's over" can mean a lot of things. And for me, it meant the war had just begun, right here at home. The Georgia heat hit me like a solid wall, thick and suffocating. But it was nothing compared to the cold dread that washed over me when I read Melanie's message. 12 years, 2 kids, 3 deployments, and this was my welcome home. Other soldiers were laughing, hugging their families, their faces bright with relief. Me? I just stood there, motionless, the words burning into my eyes. Our last video call, just a few weeks ago, had been tense, sure, but this? This was a gut punch I hadn't prepared for. A dozen furious replies flashed through my mind, a lifetime of anger and hurt. But then, the ranger in me kicked in. Calm. Calculated. Deadly. I typed just 2 words. "As you wish." Anyone who knew me, anyone who'd served with me, knew what those words meant. When chaos exploded, when other men panicked, I got unnervingly calm. "As you wish," was what I said right before I executed the most devastating operations with surgical precision. And now, I had a new mission. I pulled out my phone and made one call. "Leona Fisk speaking." Her voice was crisp, professional, like the snap of a perfectly ironed uniform. "It's Brody Harlow. I need your services. Immediately." "I thought you weren't back until next week, Brody." "Plans changed." "Can you meet today?" "Absolutely." "My office." 2 hours. I hailed a cab, not to the suburban house where my wife and my kids, Trevor, who was 16, and Amelia, 14, supposedly didn't want me, but straight to downtown Atlanta. To the office of one of the most feared divorce attorneys in the state. As the cab pulled away, I let myself have one single moment of raw emotion, squeezing my eyes shut as the betrayal washed over me. Then, just like I'd done countless times in combat, I compartmentalized. This was now a mission. And I, Brody Harlow, never failed a mission. Leona Fisk's office was all gleaming surfaces and sharp edges, just like her. She was immaculate, platinum blonde hair pulled into a severe bun, eyes that calculated your worth the second you walked in. I laid out what had happened. "So," she said, leaning back in her chair, a predatory smile playing on her lips. "She waited until you were literally on U.S. soil to tell you not to come home. That's cold, even by my standards. I need to know what I'm dealing with," I told her, my voice flat. "And then I need options." "What exactly did you mean when you texted 'as you wish'?" she asked. "It meant I'm going to respect her wishes to end our marriage," I said, meeting her gaze. "But on my terms." "Good. The weak ones want to salvage what can't be fixed. You're not here to win her back." "No," I confirmed. "I'm here to win." For the next hour, we constructed what Leona called the nuclear option. By the time I left her office, I'd signed paperwork that put in motion a series of financial and legal maneuvers. They'd all be executed at precisely 9 a.m. the following morning. After securing a hotel room, I made my second strategic call. My oldest friend, Wyatt Dennison. We'd grown up together, enlisted together. He'd left the military 5 years ago, but he was still my brother. "I need surveillance on my house," I explained, after catching him up on the situation. "Need to know who's coming and going." "You think there's someone else?" Wyatt asked, not stated. "I need confirmation and details." "I'm on it." "And Brody." "I'm sorry, brother. By nightfall, my phone started vibrating incessantly. Melanie. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the text. What did you do? Answer your damn phone. You can't just disappear like this. She had no idea. At exactly 10:37 p.m., Wyatt sent a series of photos. A midnight blue Audi parked in my driveway. A tall man with expensively cut hair getting out, Melanie enthusiastically greeting him at the door. The final photos showed them embracing, not like new lovers, but with the comfortable intimacy of an established relationship. His name is Preston Hayes, Wyatt's message read. Real estate developer. Been at your house 6 times in the past 2 weeks. Kids seemed familiar with him. I set my phone down carefully. The pieces were falling into place. I slept soundly that night, the deep sleep of a man with clarity of purpose. At 9:07 a.m. the next morning, my phone erupted again. This time, it wasn't Melanie calling, but her lawyer, a man named Rutherford. His voice climbed several octaves as he ranted. You have no legal rights to do that with her trust fund. 19 missed calls and you pull this. This is extortion. You can't possibly. I ended the call and turned to the window, allowing myself a small, cold smile. Phase 1 complete. My journey from Pennsylvania farm boy to elite Army Ranger was paved with discipline and a kind of tactical brilliance. I was the youngest of 4 brothers, raised by a widowed father. I learned early that survival required strategy. While my brothers relied on brute strength, I developed patience and precision. I met Melanie Stanford during my first leave after Ranger School. She was at Georgetown Law, brilliant, ambitious, from a wealthy New England family. Our attraction was immediate, consuming. Within 6 months we were married. Her family grudgingly accepted it, despite their reservations about her choosing a military man. When Trevor was born, I was stateside, working as a tactical instructor. Those were good years. Melanie built her law career while I moved up the Ranger ranks. After Amelia's birth, the deployments got longer, more dangerous. Each time I came home, the distance between us had grown. During my second tour, Melanie's father died, leaving her a substantial trust fund with some wild conditions. One was that her spouse couldn't access it without her express permission. Another specified that if she divorced, the funds would be held in trust until she remarried or turned 55. What Melanie didn't know was that I'd spent years studying financial law and structures. It was a hobby, stemming from my tactical mind's obsession with understanding systems. And I'd found a loophole in her trust that even her father's expensive lawyers had missed. It involved temporary reassignment of management rights during periods of domicile abandonment by either spouse. By sending that text while I was still returning from deployment, she had inadvertently triggered the clause. I hadn't touched a penny of her money, but I'd legally frozen the entire trust, preventing any withdrawals or transfers. Now, sitting in Leona's office for our follow-up meeting, she slid a folder across her desk. You were right, she said. Preston Hayes isn't just your wife's lover. They've known each other since before your marriage. He was her ex-boyfriend from law school. I just nodded, unsurprised. The timing, Leona continued, gesturing to the documents. Based on credit card records, hotel charges, restaurant receipts, they reconnected approximately 18 months ago. Shortly after you left for your last tour. 18 months. While I was clearing buildings and watching friends die, Melanie was rebuilding her life with someone else. Someone who'd been waiting in the wings. And my children? I asked, my voice betraying emotion for the first time. Leona's expression softened marginally. The Preston guy has been playing daddy. Weekend trips, expensive gifts. Your son seems resistant. His social media suggests he's angry at both adults. Your daughter appears more accepting of the situation. I absorbed this, my jaw tightening. What about the house? Has she taken out any new mortgages or loans? No. But there's something interesting about the property next door to yours. It was purchased by one of Preston Hayes' shell companies 6 months ago. The timing suggests they might be planning to combine the properties. The pieces clicked together in my mind. Not just an affair. A complete replacement. Hayes was literally moving in next door, preparing to absorb not just my family, but my physical space as well. They're efficient, I remarked coldly. Most affairs are impulsive. This one was planned, Leona agreed. The good news is they've made mistakes. Big ones. Hayes transferred $200,000 to Melanie 3 months ago, which she used to redecorate your house. That's marital property she altered using funds from her paramour. Also, she's been paying household expenses from your joint account while maintaining this relationship. I nodded. That's good, but not enough. I need you to find me something that will give me leverage regarding the children. Leona raised an eyebrow. The courts typically favor mothers. The courts favor stability and safety. I corrected her. Find me something that proves she can provide neither. As I left Leona's office, my phone buzzed with a text from Wyatt. Got something big. Meet me at the usual place. The usual place was a small diner on the outskirts of Atlanta where we'd often met during leaves. As I entered, I spotted Wyatt in a back booth, his posture still military straight despite his civilian clothes. How bad? I asked, sliding into the booth. Depends on your definition, Wyatt replied, pushing a small flash drive across the table. Your wife and her boyfriend have been plotting more than just playing house. They're planning to relocate to Costa Rica. Property purchases, school inquiries for the kids, everything. When? Next month. Right after school starts. The kids don't know yet. I pocketed the flash drive. How did you get this? Wyatt's smile was grim. Let's just say Mr. Hayes needs better cybersecurity for his cloud accounts. I nodded, processing this. My family wasn't just moving on without me. They were planning to disappear to another country. The coldness inside me crystallized into something harder. I need one more thing, I said. Access to our home? Not to confront them. Just to retrieve something that belongs to me. When? Tonight. They're attending a charity gala downtown. The kids will be at Hayes Lake House with his housekeeper. Wyatt studied my face. Brody, whatever you're planning, is necessary. I finished for him. Are you with me or not? Our eyes locked in silent communication, the kind forged in combat. Always, Wyatt finally said. But remember who you are. My smile didn't reach my eyes. That's exactly what I'm counting on them forgetting. The house looked exactly as I remembered it from the outside. A spacious colonial in an exclusive suburb. Inside, however, everything had changed. Gone were the comfortable leather couches I'd selected, replaced by sleek modern furniture, cool grays and blues. Family photos had been removed, the walls now adorned with abstract art. It was as if Melanie had attempted to erase any evidence of our life together. I moved silently through the transformed space, cataloging the changes with detached precision. In the home office, I found what I was looking for, a hidden wall safe behind a painting. The combination was Trevor's birthday, just as I'd left it. Inside was a small fireproof box containing my grandfather's medals from World War II, documents from my military career, and a sealed envelope. I took only the envelope, leaving the rest untouched. As I turned to leave, I noticed something on Melanie's desk, architectural plans. I photographed them carefully. Detailed renderings for connecting our property with the house next door, creating one massive estate. The plans were dated 14 months ago. 4 months into my last deployment. Before leaving, I made one last stop at my children's rooms. Trevor's remained much as I remembered it, sports trophies, gaming posters, organized chaos. On his desk was a framed photo that made me pause, myself and Trevor on a fishing trip 3 years ago, both smiling widely. It was the only photo of me remaining visible in the entire house. Amelia's room had transformed completely, now decorated in sophisticated purples and silvers that made it look more like a college student's apartment than a 14-year-old's bedroom. On her bulletin board I spotted concert tickets, school awards, and a photo of Amelia, Melanie, and Preston at what appeared to be a ski resort. They looked like a perfect family unit. I left as silently as I'd entered, the house keys I'd used, keys that supposedly no longer worked, placed deliberately on the kitchen counter where Melanie would find them. The next morning, I met with Harris Bentley, a former intelligence officer turned private investigator whom Wyatt had recommended. "I need everything on Preston Hayes," I explained. "Not just the surface level. I need to know what he's hiding." Harris, a slight man with penetrating eyes, nodded. "Everyone's hiding something. How deep do you want me to go?" "All the way." While Harris conducted his investigation, I executed the next phase of my plan. I contacted Trevor's lacrosse coach, arranging to, accidentally, run into my son after practice. When Trevor emerged from the fieldhouse, he stopped cold at the sight of me. "Dad?" The teenager's voice cracked. "Mom said you weren't coming back." "I'm here, son," I said simply. Trevor's face cycled through shock, confusion, and anger. "Where have you been? It's been 4 days since you landed. I needed to get some things in order first. Your mother made it clear I wasn't welcome at home." Trevor looked away. "She said you abandoned us? That you chose the Rangers over us? Is that why you didn't want to see me?" "I never said that." Trevor's head snapped up. "She told us you wanted a clean break. No messy goodbyes." I kept my expression neutral despite the surge of anger. "I see. Are you and Mom getting divorced?" "It seems that way." Trevor kicked at the ground. "Because of Preston, partly. I hate him," Trevor muttered. "He acts like he's doing us all this big favor. Amelia buys it, but I don't." We talked for 30 minutes. I was careful not to disparage Melanie while still establishing that many of Trevor's assumptions were based on lies. When Melanie's SUV pulled into the parking lot, I stood. "I have to go. But Trevor, whatever happens between your mother and me, I'm still your father. That doesn't change." As I walked away, Trevor called after me. "Dad, are you just going to let him take everything?" I turned. My expression unreadable. "No, son. I'm not." Later that evening, Harris Bentley delivered his preliminary findings. Preston Hayes is legitimate on paper. Successful developments, clean record, respected in the community. But there are inconsistencies. 3 former business partners who suddenly sold their shares for pennies on the dollar. A building inspector who changed career paths after approving one of Hayes' controversial properties. And most interestingly, a pattern of targeting wealthy married women as investors while their husbands are otherwise occupied. I leaned forward. "Explain." "He courts women whose husbands are frequently absent. Military, international business, politics. Becomes their friend, confidant, then business advisor. Eventually, the husband is gone permanently. Divorce, usually, and Hayes remains, with access to the family's wealth through the woman." "And the move to Costa Rica?" Harris's expression darkened. "That's where it gets concerning. Hayes has property there, yes. But he also has connections to less savory enterprises. The area where he's purchased land is known for being a haven for those looking to disappear from financial or legal obligations. He's planning to isolate her," I concluded. "Get her away from family, friends, familiar legal systems." "Possibly. The timeline is aggressive. Property transfer for your house is already in motion, scheduled to close in 3 weeks." I nodded. "That's why she needed the divorce finalized quickly. They're liquidating assets before disappearing." "There's one more thing," Harris added. "The envelope you retrieved from your safe. What was in it?" "Insurance," I replied. "Something I suspected might be necessary someday." The envelope contained documentation of an agreement I'd made with Melanie's father before his death. A promise that in exchange for me signing a prenuptial agreement limiting my claims to Melanie's family money, the older man would establish a separate trust for my military earnings, to protect them in case of divorce. The agreement had been properly notarized but never filed with the main trust documents. This piece of leverage, combined with Harris's findings, gave me what I needed for the next phase. I called Leona. "I'm ready to make my move," I said. "Set up a meeting with Melanie and her lawyer for tomorrow. They're demanding you unfreeze the trust immediately." Leona warned. Tell them I'm prepared to discuss terms. Conference room, your office, 2 p.m. And if they refuse? They won't, I said confidently. Melanie's got a timeline to keep. The conference room crackled with tension. Melanie sat across from me, her once familiar face now a mask of cold disdain. Beside her, a silver-haired attorney named Rutherford projected cultivated outrage. Leona, by contrast, appeared relaxed, almost amused. This is harassment and financial abuse. Rutherford began. Your client has maliciously interfered with assets that are explicitly excluded from marital property. Leona smiled. My client has exercised a legitimate legal option, triggered by Mrs. Harlow's own actions. Perhaps if she'd waited until he was actually home before changing the locks and barring him from his residence, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Melanie's eyes narrowed. You weren't supposed to be back for another week. It was the first time she directly addressed me. Her voice was tight, controlled. Deployment schedules change, I replied evenly. But your plans were well underway regardless, weren't they? What plans? Rutherford interjected. I slid a folder across the table. Property purchases in Costa Rica. School applications for my children. Airline tickets. Color drained from Melanie's face as she flipped through the documents. How did you? You're planning to take my children out of the country without my knowledge or consent. I continued. That's parental kidnapping. It's a vacation property. Melanie snapped. And you've been absent for most of their lives anyway. Absent serving my country. I corrected. Not absent by choice. You had choices. Melanie's composure cracked. Every reenlistment was a choice. Every special assignment was a choice. You chose the Rangers over us every single time. And you chose Preston Hayes long before my last deployment. I countered. 14 months ago, to be precise, when you commissioned architectural plans to connect our property with his. Rutherford cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. Perhaps we should focus on the immediate issue of the trust fund. I'll unfreeze the trust, I said, on 2 conditions. Melanie's relief was palpable, but short-lived. First, the children stay in Atlanta through the end of the school year, with a standard joint custody arrangement. No international relocations without court approval. Rutherford nodded. That's reasonable. Second, I want the truth from you, Melanie. Not about the affair, about what you told the kids. Melanie's jaw tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. You told them I abandoned them. That I didn't want to see them. I protected them from being hurt. Melanie retorted. What was I supposed to say? Your father might come home in a body bag? You lied to them, I said quietly. Trevor never said he didn't want to see me. Neither did Amelia. That was your manipulation. The room fell silent. Even Rutherford looked troubled. I want you to correct the record. I continued. Tell them the truth. Then we can discuss unfreezing the trust. And if I refuse? Melanie challenged. I slid another document across the table, the agreement with her father. Then this gets filed with the trust administrators. Your father made certain promises to me that supersede your prenuptial protections. Melanie's face went white as she read the document. Dad would never. Your father respected service and sacrifice, I said. He also recognized that you inherited his ruthless streak. This was his insurance policy against exactly this scenario. After what felt like 30 seconds, but was probably 10, Melanie nodded once, sharply. Fine. I'll tell them the truth. But this doesn't change anything, Brody. I'm still divorcing you. I wouldn't have it any other way, I replied coolly. That evening, I received a text from Trevor. Mom told us what really happened. Why didn't you call us yourself? I replied. I needed to be certain I could be part of your lives before making promises. Are you back for good now? Came the response. Yes. No more deployments. A long pause. Then, Amelia's mad at Mom. She's crying in her room. My chest tightened. Tell her I'll see you both this weekend. My place. You have a place? I will by Saturday. The next phase was accelerating faster than anticipated. I needed to secure a residence and establish stability quickly. But first, I needed to neutralize Preston Hayes. Harris Bentley's deeper investigation had uncovered concerning patterns. Hayes's business model involved a sophisticated form of real estate fraud, buying properties through shell companies, inflating their values through cosmetic improvements and manipulated appraisals, then selling them to investment groups that included his romantic partners or their family trusts. It's not technically illegal if everyone knows what they're investing in, Harris explained. But Hayes obscures critical details. 3 of his previous romantic partners lost millions before realizing what happened. And Melanie? She's already invested $1.2 million from her trust in his latest development, the one in Costa Rica. The property exists, but the permits, infrastructure, and projected values are all smoke and mirrors. I processed this information. So his plan is to get her and her money to Costa Rica, where U.S. financial regulations don't apply. Exactly. And once there, with no support system, she'd be completely dependent on him. Brody finished. For the first time, a flicker of concern for Melanie went through my anger. Despite everything, she was still the mother of my children. She'd betrayed me thoroughly, yes. But perhaps she was being manipulated by someone equally skilled at deception. I need evidence that will stand up in court, I decided. And I need to move quickly. What are you planning? Harris asked. To give Preston Hayes exactly what he wants, I replied. Or at least, what he thinks he wants. Preston Hayes had built his life on calculated risks and the ability to read people. He prided himself on identifying vulnerabilities and exploiting them with finesse. So when Brody Harlow, the inconvenient husband who was supposed to be dispatched through a quick, clean divorce, requested a private meeting at Hayes's downtown office, curiosity overcame caution. Mr. Harlow. Hayes greeted me with professional cordiality, rising from behind his imposing desk. This is unexpected. I took in the man who'd been sleeping with my wife. Tall, athletic, but soft around the edges, with the practiced charm of someone used to getting his way. I thought it was time we spoke directly. Man to man. I appreciate that. Hayes gestured to a chair. Though I'm not sure what there is to discuss. Melanie has made her decision. That's precisely why I'm here, I said, remaining standing. To acknowledge that decision and propose a solution that benefits everyone. Hayes's expression revealed nothing, but his posture shifted subtly. I'm listening. You want Melanie. You want my house. You want my family. I stated flatly. I've accepted that. But the current approach, the lawyers, the court battles, will drag on for months, possibly years. Nobody wins. What exactly are you suggesting? A clean break. I sign over my interest in the house. I agree to the divorce terms. I even support your relationship. I forced the word out. In exchange, I want guaranteed access to my children and a financial settlement that reflects my contributions to the marriage. Hayes studied me, searching for the trap. That's surprisingly reasonable. Melanie described you as uncompromising. Military service teaches you to recognize unwinnable battles, I replied. And to strategically reposition. I see. Hayes leaned back. And what would this financial settlement entail? $2 million. A fraction of what prolonged litigation would cost you. You seem very confident about what litigation would cost me, Hayes noted. I shrugged. I've done my research on everything. Something in my tone made Hayes pause. For a brief moment, uncertainty flickered across his face before his confident mask returned. I'll need to discuss this with Melanie. Of course. But this offer is time-sensitive. 24 hours. That's not much time for such significant decisions. I thought you were a man who knew the value of moving quickly on opportunities, I replied. After I left, Hayes immediately called Melanie, relaying the conversation. Unknown to either of them, Harris Bentley had installed surveillance equipment in Hayes's office the previous night with the help of a building maintenance worker who owed Wyatt a favor. "He's desperate," Hayes told Melanie. "This is perfect. We can wrap everything up cleanly and be in Costa Rica before winter." "It seems too easy," Melanie's voice replied through the speaker. "Brody doesn't give up. He's a soldier, not a businessman. He's out of his depth. You don't know him like I do. He's playing some angle. Even if he is, what can he possibly do? The trust is unfrozen. The house sale is proceeding. We have everything in motion." "What about the children?" Melanie asked. "We'll honor the custody arrangement until we're ready to leave. By then, he'll be established in his new life, and the kids will prefer our situation anyway, especially with the private school options in Costa Rica. And if he contests the international move, by then it will be too late. Trust me, Mel. This is what we've been working toward. Everything is falling into place." The recording captured everything. The casual conspiracy to violate custody agreements, the calculated manipulation, the clear intent to defraud through the Costa Rican investment scheme. It was exactly what I needed. The next day, I received a call from Hayes accepting his terms, with a meeting scheduled to sign paperwork the following morning. That evening, I met with Leona to finalize our countermove. "This is thin ice. Legally speaking," Leona warned, reviewing the plan. "A judge might view the recording as entrapment. The recording is just insurance," I assured her. "The financial evidence is what matters, the documented pattern of fraud, the misrepresented investments. We just needed Hayes to confirm his intentions regarding my children." "And you're sure you want to warn Melanie after everything she's done?" My expression hardened. "This isn't about Melanie anymore. It's about protecting my children from both of them." The pieces were set. Phase 3 would begin at 9 a.m. the next day, exactly when Hayes believed he was cementing his victory. That night, I received an unexpected visitor at my hotel room, Amelia. She stood in the hallway, tear-streaked and defiant. "Mom doesn't know I'm here," she blurted out. "Trevor helped me sneak out." I ushered her inside, my heart hammering. "Amelia, you can't just— Why didn't you fight for us?" she demanded. "You just disappeared when you got back. You didn't even try to see us." "I was told you didn't want to see me," I said gently. "And you believe that? After everything?" Her voice broke. "I wrote to you every week. I sent emails. When you could get them. I waited for you to come home and then, nothing. I knelt before my daughter, seeing for the first time how much she'd grown during my absence. I'm fighting for you now. I promise you that. Mom's selling our house. We're moving away." "No, you're not," I said firmly. "Not unless you want to." Amelia studied my face. "Preston says you can't stop it. He says you signed papers. Preston doesn't know what's coming." "What does that mean?" I chose my words carefully. "It means that sometimes people aren't who they pretend to be. And sometimes the truth has to come out before people get hurt." "Are you going to hurt Preston?" Amelia's eyes widened. "Not physically," I assured her. "But yes, I'm going to stop him from taking what's mine. Including my family?" Amelia nodded slowly. "Good. I hate him. He acts nice when Mom's around, but when she's not, he's different." My blood ran cold. "Different how?" "He talks to us like we're stupid. Tells Trevor he needs to man up and stop missing you. Told me I need to adjust to reality because you never really cared about us anyway." Her voice dropped. "Last week, he grabbed Trevor's arm when Trevor argued with him. Left marks. The cold rage I had been carefully controlling crystallized into something lethal." "When did this happen?" "Thursday. Trevor wouldn't let him in his room and they got into a fight." "Does your mother know?" Amelia shook her head. "Trevor didn't want to tell her. Said it would just make everything worse." I took a deep breath, recalibrating my plans. "I need you to go home now. But tomorrow, things are going to change. I promise you that." After safely returning Amelia home with Wyatt's help to ensure she wasn't detected, I made one final call to Leona. We need to accelerate the timeline, I said, and add one more component to our strategy. What's changed? She asked. Everything, I replied. Hayes crossed a line he can't uncross. The Hayes Development Group offices occupied the 27th floor of Atlanta's premier business tower. All glass, chrome, and calculated intimidation. When I arrived for our 9 a.m. meeting, Hayes was waiting with 2 attorneys and a smug smile. Mr. Harlow, he greeted, extending his hand. I appreciate your pragmatism in this matter. I ignored the outstretched hand. Where's Melanie? She should be here. Hayes's smile tightened. Melanie trusted me to handle the financial aspects. She'll join us for the final signatures. That won't work, I said calmly. I need all parties present before we proceed. One of Hayes's attorneys, a nervous-looking younger man, shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Hayes assured us Mrs. Harlow had approved these terms. Did she approve them in writing? I asked. I have her power of attorney for business matters. Hayes interjected smoothly. This isn't a business matter, I replied. It's a divorce settlement affecting my children. Either Melanie attends, or we reconvene when she's available. Hayes's jaw tightened momentarily before he forced another smile. Of course, let me call her. As Hayes stepped away to make the call, the conference room door opened again. Leona entered, followed by a stern-looking man in a conservative suit. Mr. Harlow. Apologies for the delay, Leona said briskly. Agent Donovan was held up in traffic. Agent? Hayes had snapped up from his phone. Franklin Donovan, FBI, Financial Crimes Division. The man introduced himself, placing his credentials on the table. I'm here as an observer only. At this point, Hayes's attorneys exchanged alarmed glances. What is this? Hayes demanded, returning to the table. Insurance, I replied. Is Melanie coming? She'll be here in 20 minutes, Hayes said, his confident demeanor now visibly strained. Perhaps we should delay until perfect timing, I interrupted. That gives us just enough time to review some additional documents I've brought. Leona distributed folders to everyone present. These materials document a pattern of securities fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy spanning 7 years in 3 states. Hayes laughed, but it sounded hollow. This is absurd. A transparent attempt at extortion. No extortion, I said calmly. Just facts. You've defrauded previous romantic partners through manipulated real estate investments. You're attempting the same with my wife and her trust fund. And most recently, you physically assaulted my 16-year-old son. Hayes's face drained of color. That's a lie. I never. We have photographs of the bruises. I cut him off. And witness statements. The conference room door opened again as Melanie arrived, looking confused and increasingly alarmed as she absorbed the scene. What's happening? She demanded. Preston, why is there an FBI agent here? Mrs. Harlow. Agent Donovan acknowledged her. Please join us. We were just discussing your investment in the Costa Rica development. My investment? Melanie looked to Hayes. What investment? The $1.2 million transfer you authorized 3 weeks ago. I supplied. For the Villa Paraiso development. Melanie frowned. That wasn't an investment. That was a property purchase. Our retirement home. There is no retirement home, I said gently. The development exists, only on paper. The property you think you purchased is an undeveloped parcel of land worth less than $100,000. That's not possible. Preston showed me the plans, the photos, the renderings, stock photos. Leona interjected, sliding additional documents toward Melanie. Here are the actual property records, permits, or lack thereof, and banking transfers showing where your money actually went. Melanie sank into a chair, staring at the evidence. Preston, tell me this isn't true. Hayes's mask of confidence cracked completely. Melanie, this is a misunderstanding. The development is in the early stages. The development doesn't exist, Agent Donovan stated flatly. We've been investigating Mr. Hayes for 18 months. Your husband's evidence has simply accelerated our timeline. Melanie's head snapped up. You knew about this? She asked me. I suspected something was wrong when I saw the Costa Rica plans, I replied. The investigation confirmed it. So this whole meeting was a trap? Hayes spat. Your husband set us both up. No, I corrected. Just you. Melanie is as much a victim of your fraud as your previous partners were. Hayes's attorneys were already gathering their belongings, mumbling about needing to consult with their firm partners. And what about Trevor? Melanie asked, her voice barely audible. What did you mean about assault? I slid a photo across the table, Trevor's arm with clear, finger-shaped bruises. Tonight. When Trevor refused to let him into his room. Melanie stared at the photo, then at Hayes, horror dawning on her face. You hurt my son! He was being disrespectful. I barely grabbed him. Hayes protested. The slap echoed in the conference room as Melanie's palm connected with Hayes's face. You lying bastard! You promised me you would never, Mrs. Harlow. Agent Donovan interjected. I suggest we continue this discussion at our office. We'll need formal statements from both you and your son. What followed was a blur of activity. Hayes was escorted out by 2 additional FBI agents who had been waiting outside. Melanie, shell-shocked, agreed to cooperate fully with the investigation. When the room finally cleared, only Leona, Melanie, and I remained. Why? Melanie asked, looking at me. After what I did to you, why would you protect me from him? I didn't do it for you, I replied. I did it for Trevor and Amelia. They've been through enough. Melanie nodded slowly, tears welling. What happens now? Now? I said, standing. You tell the children the complete truth about everything. Then we'll discuss next steps. As I walked out, Leona following, Melanie called after me. Did you ever love me at all? Or was I just part of some mission plan? I paused at the doorway. I loved you enough to let you go when I thought that's what you wanted. And I loved you enough to stop you when I realized you were being manipulated into something dangerous. But not enough to forgive me, Melanie said quietly. No, I agreed. Not enough for that. 3 weeks later, the legal landscape had transformed entirely. Preston Hayes faced multiple federal charges for fraud and financial crimes. His assets were frozen. His reputation shattered. The FBI